So we're about to talk about Substance Painter. I'm going to give you this iguana module, and what I'm going to do is walk through setting up a file to take into Substance Painter, getting it into Substance Painter. I'm going to do some very brief painting, but I don't want to bog you down by spending 5 hours talking about my painting workflow. Also, as you can probably see from this image, I did not use a tablet, and using a tablet is gonna make your work look better. It's not essential, but it's good to do. So I'm not going to make you watch me paint because my painting is going to be clunky, and I think that I already told you that I have this unshakable faith that every student I have at TCNJ is a really good painter. So you're all going to do a better job than I will. So we're going to move into Substance Painter. I'm going to paint some stuff. I'll talk a little bit about the process. Then I will export from Substance Painter back into Maya. So that's going to be the workflow, and you're going to wind up with something that looks more or less like this. So let me start by showing you what you're going to get. You're going to get this iguana. A couple of things about it. First, the UVs are mapped. So if I go here into the UV editor, these are the UVs that I have made for this iguana. I don't recommend changing them, but if you are very determined, you absolutely can. I also made a couple of spheres for the eyes. They've got a UV map as well, and I wanted them purely so that I could show you how to import and export with multiple objects. Because I figure that most of you, if you're going to be doing painting, you're going to be working on a complex model that's got multiple pieces. So it's good to know these things. So that's the eye UV map. Now I somehow managed to avoid setting this file up correctly, so let me just group this. We'll call this one my iguana geometry group. And I have this layer, but of course they're not on the layer, so we'll just add selected objects, turn symmetry off, and just like that, I'm almost ready to go. The last thing that I want to point out is that here in the hypershade I have already made a couple of AI standard surface nodes, one for the body, and I've got it on a little tab. One for the eyes, I've got them on a little tab. I haven't attached any files to them. You can, but you don't have to. And I figured I would keep this simple and just keep everything nice and clean. So this is the file that we're going to be working with and that we're going to be taking over into Substance Painter. Everybody's got their own UV map and everybody's got their own AI standard surface. The other thing that I've done is I have smoothed my geometry, so I'm taking a slightly denser mesh over into Substance. And that's just going to make it a little easier for me to see over there. Substance doesn't do the same work Maya does in terms of subdividing. So by having the model smoothed, which was of course shift right click and smooth, that just subdivided all of my faces, gave me a little more geometry, and again, it's going to be a little easier to paint. So the last thing I'm going to do here is select my group node, and in my file menu I'm going to export my selection, and I like using export selection because it means that I'm never going to be exporting anything like my image planes or that spare leg that I made and forgot about. So I always want to be in charge. I'm going to export selection, and in the export selection window I have changed files of type down here to FBX Export. I prefer the FBX file format because it contains a lot of information, so in addition to keeping my models separated, it will also, if I ever need to, contain animation information, so it's really good for going out into, let's say, game engines. But it's also going to work fine for Substance. If you don't like the FBX export for any reason, there is also, somewhere in here, an OBJ export. Yeah, right there. That's the OBJ export. OBJ is a really simple, basic file format. It doesn't even include material information. It actually creates a second file for materials. So I'm not as big a fan of the OBJ as I am of the FBX. The FBX is a little more inclusive, but either one, FBX or OBJ, will work. So I'm going FBX. And you can see I've already exported this once, but just to do it again, we'll call this one iguana and eyes 2. I also always like to put the extension I'm using in the file name so I don't forget what I've tried in case it doesn't work. So there I go, that's it. And now I am all done in Maya for a little bit, so I'm going to pause this video here, and in the next one I will start talking about substance.